Hey, athletes, what is up? This is Coach Katie D, and I'm coming in hot for our 52nd episode. And we made it a whole year together. Now, the very first podcast episode of the Coach Katie Danger podcast, and for those of you who don't know, it actually was called the Everyday Athlete Podcast before I changed the name about, 20 episodes or so into it. But the very first podcast I ever did, the very first airing was on December 5th, 2019. So it's been over a calendar year, but I took a few months off in mid-2020 because COVID and life, and I mean, we all know how that time was, right? But I've been going strong, and the goal has always been to bring you value-packed episodes that you can digest in about 15 to 20 minutes. So last week I had a fun episode, and I talked a lot about Ambien, and I shared some stories with you. And the podcast episode was essentially about how you can get better sleep. And particularly, I really enjoyed sharing some of the stories, some of the experiences I've had while I've been high on Ambien. But especially the story of my friend and her Ambien sleepwalking event where she was in Walmart and she had slippers on and she parked her car on the median and the key was still in the ignition. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, and even if you get great sleep and don't need better sleep, I really just think you should listen to last week's episode because there's a lot of comedy in it and you'll definitely get a good laugh, especially out of some of the stories. But I also mentioned in last week's episode that I had a special treat for you to celebrate our 52nd episode. And I do, but you're gonna have to stick around with me until the end of the episode to get that special prize. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you want to know how to build more muscle, better muscle, build muscle faster? And I know that if you're lifting weights in any capacity, whether it's isolated machine exercises, dumbbells, barbells, or a mix of all the above, increasing muscle mass is a byproduct of that loading stimulus. When you put that stimulus on the muscle, you're going to build muscle. Of course, there are ways that you can get better results. You can get more muscle, harder muscle, more firm muscle, more symmetrical muscle. And COVID sucked, but at the same time, when I'm reflecting back, I can't believe it's already been almost a year. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot because I trained up my programming, and now most of my background is in CrossFit. Like the majority of my experience, if you put all 15 years together, most of it's been spent in a CrossFit gym and that methodology. But last year, I experimented with my training a lot. Isolated movements, dumbbells, traditional bodybuilding stuff. And I found that there are three most effective principles when it comes to the question, how can I build muscle the fastest? And with the three principles that I'm going to share with you, you'll find that they maximize the stimulus on the muscle, it maximizes your rest time, and it maximizes the concentric and the eccentric motion. So the flexion and the extension, the full range of motion of the muscle and the movement itself. Now, the genesis of these three principles, how I have come up with the meat of this podcast episodes and the information I'm going to share, it has a lot to do with my love for Arnold. And the way Arnold looked at muscle was like an art. I mean, if you've ever looked at some of the Mr. Olympia pictures of Arnold in his prime, he is a work of art. I mean, he's like a chiseled sculpture, and he spent so much time and was very meticulous about the way that he trained. And his care and attention to detail really comes down to intention. And he talks about this a lot in his Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, which I recommend that if you have not picked up before, if you don't have a copy of it, go to Amazon right now, Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding by Arnold, grab it, pick it up. Doesn't matter if you're just into CrossFit, whatever you're into, it is a great resource just for exercise and fitness in general. He was ahead of his time, way ahead of his time. Now, I don't want to confuse intention with intensity, because although there is a degree of intensity that's needed to fully stimulate the muscle for growth, it's not at a rate that you would consider reckless abandon. When I talk about intention, I mean moving with purpose, full awareness of the ranges of motion as you go through the exercise itself. For example, to build the most dense, strong muscle, it takes care to set yourself up correctly before you're doing a push, before you're doing a pull. And then when you do initiate the exercise, you know what your beginning and end ranges are personally for you. So there is, there's the full training stimulus on that muscle through the entire range of motion. this is a pro tip for you. There is no gripping and ripping here. In fact, if you want to be doing any sort of fitness for the long term, you should never grip and rip anything at all, ever. You want to stay safe too. So now that you know that intent is very important, awareness, you need to have your head in the game when it comes to your workouts and getting the best results. I want to share these top 3 ways to build the most massive muscle that you can. The first thing that you need to know, principle number 1, the first thing you need to know is that the total number of repetitions you do matters, and it matters a lot. And this order, the 1, 2, 3 I'm giving you, it is in order of importance. So this is number 1. You need to know that the total number of reps you do matters. And you've probably tried and seen a lot of different training rep schemes in your time. Maybe 3x5, 4x10, 3x12. And the total number of reps you do per body group has a very big impact on the kind of results you'll get. Now, you've probably heard this before. If you want endurance, you should go higher reps. If you want strength, you should go lower reps and higher weight. But what if you're just concerned about building muscle, like actual, real hard, aesthetically awesome muscle? And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube instead of just listening to it, I'm flexing right now my bicep because, like, how you build hard, real muscle, and we're talking about aesthetics, so things that look good too, right? You know, everybody wants to look good naked, so we're not even going to try and hide it. The science of hypertrophy, when we're talking about building muscle, actual muscle fiber growth, it tells us that the number of reps, the magic number is 50, 50. And why 50 reps? Well, it's that magical balance between muscle failure and muscle fatigue. And muscle failure and muscle fatigue are 2 different things. With 50 reps, in the rep scheme that I'm particularly talking about is a 5x10. And with this 50 reps, with this 5x10, you're not quite to failure. So you can still do the reps safely. You can still keep that intent and that awareness. But you're entering the zone of heavy fatigue. So you're pushing your mental and physiological limits, but just a little bit. Remember, if you want to be able to keep the focus and intent for each and every rep, if you flirt with failure, if you get close to that red line, it can really have some negative consequences for maintaining your focus and intent. And in this particular instance, when I'm talking about these principles, we don't want failure. We want fatigue. We don't want failure. So to recap, principle number 1 for massive muscle is total number of reps, and the magic number is 50. Principle number 2, the second principle is all about rest. Yes, rest. Not necessarily relaxing and chilling out, but it's just giving your muscle. This is about rest for your muscle, not rest for your mind or yourself or for you to text. This is about rest for your muscle. And it's giving your muscle just enough time to recover and get ready for that next set. There's a magic number for rest too, and the magic number is 60 seconds. No matter if you're staying at the same exercise or moving between exercises, so if you're going from one machine to the other or a push or a pull, you want to get as strict with that 60 seconds as you can. So pull out your stopwatch, get out your phone, set a timer, 60 seconds. Now, this principle is rooted in the science of building muscle in that you want to allow yourself enough rest to complete the full range of motion. So remember, we're back to that failure versus fatigue reference. We do not want to hit failure. We just want fatigue. In no way should you ever be at failure during any point of your sets when you're following these principles. And in fact, you might be thinking, okay, what Katie's describing right here is basically high intensity interval training. And I would really urge you not to get caught up in, giving this a label and making everything that has a rest period as high intensity. Sure, we want intensity. We want that passion. I want you to bring that fire to your training. But this is not about failure. This is not about gripping and ripping it. This is about intent. And intensity and intention, like I mentioned before, are different things, just like failure and fatigue are different things. So stick to just what I'm talking about here in this little scope of practice, or in the scope of this podcast, in the scope of the goal of building massive muscle, is we want fatigue. We do not want failure. We want intent. We don't necessarily want intensity. When you take the first principle I talked about, and you got the 50 reps, and you couple that with the 60 seconds of rest, and you focus on one body group at a time, you're going to get massive muscle results. You're going to see very, very quick results too. And I mentioned this before, I'm going to hit it home. Get as strict with that 60-second rest period as you can. So, principle number 1. Principle number 2. Now we're at number 3. The last principle, probably my favorite aspect, it's not how you train. It is the time under tension. And let me talk about this. Have you ever done pause squats? One of the most intense, brutal things you can do is a heavy back squat and do it under tension. And a lot of people would call these pause squats. Have you ever held the bottom or the top of a movement? Have you ever gotten the shakes from holding a plank too long? That's what we call time under tension. We are keeping our muscles tight, tense, contracted for a certain period of time. Specifically, when we're talking about this, it is the concentric and the eccentric motion, the flexing or the extending phase of the lift. Imagine you're doing a squat. Okay, so give you a better idea of what time under tension is. Imagine you're doing a squat and you got the barbell on your back and you're lowering yourself. You're pushing your hips back. You're letting, you're getting your core tight. You have to have a tight core to stabilize. Your glutes, your hamstrings come into play. Your quads, they all engage. You're very tense and tight right now. Your lats pull the bar down your back because you want to have that added leverage. You hit the bottom of the squat. You hold it. All this stuff is still engaged, and then you drive up explosively through your heels, and then you fully extend through the hips, and you stop back up at the top. That is a pause squat. Essentially, we're going through all of the intentional phases, the ranges of motion. You hold it, and then come back up. The same thing is happening here when we're talking about time under tension. Your muscles are still working to create the necessary force, momentum, and power that help you get from point A to point B, from the bottom to the top, from the top of the pull to the push, right back up. Now, in the case that I just described, the top of the squat to the bottom and then back up to the finish. Now, depending on how long this took you, this is time under tension. And depending on what, the prescription is for the programming you're following, time under tension is sometimes a variable that comes into play, and sometimes it is the only variable that comes into play. Specifically with what I'm talking about is we want that full intentional movement from point A to point B, basically in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for example, let's just say we're doing a back squat, right? Lower your hips, 1, 2, hold the bottom, 3, 4, and you're on the way up in 5. It is a controlled, purposeful, intentional movement. And when we include this element, this time under tension, with our first two principles, the 50 total reps, the 60 seconds of rest between exercises, and now we add that time under tension, that intentional movement, you're giving your body, you're giving your muscles the best stimulus, the best environment to grow that muscle fast and grow it the biggest it possibly can. So there you have it, the top 3 principles you can apply to your training to build the most massive, dense muscle you can. And you're going to experience quick results too, because when you focus on one way of doing something to achieve a specific result, when we put all of our brain power into this one specific goal that we want, which is, in the case of this episode, building massive muscle, instead of just cherry picking and hopping around, you're going to get results very, very quickly. And obviously, athletes, this goes for anything. When you put your mind towards a purposeful, intentional action, you're going to get the best results that you possibly can. So, I told you about these 3 principles. 50 total reps, 60 seconds of rest, time under tension. If you're ready to get to training and you want to put all 3 of these principles in motion, I got you covered. So I created the 50-60 training method program so you can hit all 3 of these points of performance, build massive, total body muscle. The 50-60 method focuses on 50 reps per body part, 60 seconds of rest, and a concentration on intent, focus of movement, time under tension. This is a very purposeful program. It is on purpose going to get you results if you put in the work. It is 3 times a week, and it's going to help you build real, awesome, massive muscle. It is a total body program, and it is free from yours truly, and you can get it for download at, here's the URL, the5060method.com. 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 All one word. Now, don't be surprised once you start with these workouts if that first week or 2 you are a bit more sore than usual, especially. Now, this could be a great standalone program. I believe that any program, any weight training should be at least 3 times a week. But if you're coupling this with another training program, like maybe your CrossFit program or another HIIT training program, don't be surprised if you're a bit more sore after the first week of doing the 50-60 method. But, I mean, honestly, isn't that we all really love anyways? We love to be sore and we love to talk about it. So, don't wait. Go to the 5060method.com. Get your free programming. I really want you to try it. I've been doing this for the past 5 weeks and I love it. I love it. Get out there. There is muscle that needs to be built. Do not wait. So I'm getting ready to wrap up the episode. And I told you last week, and I told you at the beginning of the episode that I had a surprise with you if you stuck with me to the end. And here we are. Here's your prize. Here's what I want you to do. You're going to email me, katie@coachkatiedanger.com. You're going to let me know that you listened to this episode number 52 and that you want to claim your gift card. I'm giving away a $25 gift card to anybody, only one per person, but to anybody who's listened to this episode, emails me, and then I guess, well, just lets me know that you listened to this episode. And also, let me know if you tried the 50-60 program. But I have a $25 gift card. One per person, anybody who's listening. It's good at RedAgeNutrition.com. You can get it on your next supplement order, and this is for all my loyal listeners, my friends, my followers. And to claim it, all you got to do is email me, katie@coachkatiedanger.com. Let me know you listened to the episode, and let me know you want your $25 gift card. That's all you got to do. That's it. So that is my gift to you, $25 free to use on your nutrition so you can have the best results, do more work faster than ever before. And remember, if you haven't ordered from RedAgeNutrition.com yet, and I don't know why you haven't, wink, wink, right? Head on over there. Because if you use the coupon code CoachKatieDanger, all one word, Coach Katie Danger, you'll get 30% off your first supplement order of regularly priced supplements. So $25 gift card for my loyal listeners who listen to this episode. Coach Katie Danger coupon code. If you haven't used it yet, all first time orders 30% off. And then last reminder, doesn't have anything to do with the $25 gift card that you get, however. If you didn't know this already, all these episodes, all these podcast episodes are actually up on YouTube 1 whole week before they air on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or my other partner streaming platforms. So go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can get all this wonderful deliciousness about fitness a whole week early. So athletes, now you have it all. You have the top 3 ways to maximize your muscle gain. You can build massive total body muscle. I gave you access to a free method or a free training program. You can put all of these principles together, the 50 reps, the 60 seconds of rest, and the time under tension, the5060method.com. Go there now, get your free training guide. And now you can also get a big chunk of change off of your next supplement order with that $25 gift card. Email me, katie@coachkatiedanger.com, and I will hook you up. Athletes, thank you so much for joining me again for episode number 52. And whether this is your first episode or your 52nd, I appreciate you. I really love spending every single moment with you during the week. And my goal from the first episode to the next 52 episodes is to share relevant fitness topics that are going to make your life easier, that are easy to digest and help you do more work faster and get the best results that you deserve. Keep training hard. And in the meantime, I'm signing off for episode number 52. This is the top 3 ways to maximize muscle gain, and we will chat again next week. But this is Coach Katie D, over and out, and we will chat again next week.